Joshua chapter 1. It's amazing, about 8 years ago, we were meeting over here at the Holiday Inn and Suites. It was called the Country, what was the Country Inn and Suites? Now it's Holiday Inn Express. We rented that little fellowship room they had, a little business club room they had. And the first Sunday we had 53 people out, but that was because we invited family and friends and folk from here, there, and everywhere to kick this church off. The second Sunday was our official start, because that was reality. You know how many people we had in that meeting? Exactly the same amount we have here this morning, 17. So what you see here is where we started, and here you see is where we end. But this is one of those bittersweet situations. We titled the message, Failure, Success, or Success and Failure. Some have titled this, You Can Fail But Not Be a Failure. But Joshua chapter 1, I want to share a few insights from God's Word, and how God has, through the years, encouraged His people before they go off onto a new enterprise. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you will all these things get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the great sea on the west. No one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous. King James, be strong and of good courage. Because you will lead these people to inherit the land I have sworn to their forefathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you may go. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And finally, verse 18, he says this, Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey your words, whatever you may command them, will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. You notice that message he's been preaching here? Be strong and of good courage. Yes. The Hebrew is Rak Hazak, which is a battle cry. It's like, remember the Alamo. It might be charge, but it's Rak Hazak, be strong and of good courage. Yes. Joshua was, before he led Israel into the promised land to conquer it from the heathen, was told by God 3 or 4 times, be strong and of good courage. Solomon was commanded by David to be courageous in building the temple in 1 Chronicles 28 verse 20. You know what he says? Be strong and of good courage. Jeremiah, when he was about to be called as a prophet, was told to be strong and of good courage. Ezekiel was preaching to rebellious Israel in Ezekiel 2 verses 6 and 7. He says, don't be afraid, be strong and of good courage. Elijah, after destroying the 450 prophets of Baal, fled to Mount Horeb. And God told him, be strong and of good courage, because there's been thousands that have not bowed the knee to Baal. In the book of Acts, Paul in chapter 18 was going through a hurricane. And he turned to the people, the sailors and the folks on that ship that's torn up and being bounced around like a cork on the seas. He was told by an angel, strengthen the people, be strong and of good courage. And we find that Paul tells us in Philippians 1, 27 and 28, stand fast in one spirit, with one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel, and in nothing be terrified by your adversaries. We say again in 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, "For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." It's kind of interesting of a theme developed, be strong and of good courage. Here we've got a building, and I've always seen these for sale signs on churches, and this one's available, and we've got a deposit on it. And Louis Gerard, who owns Grace Manor and two other manors that we do worship service, has given us an offer on the property. And it's supposed to be closed by, January the 7th. That's why we're clearing out now. And they changed it to January the 18th. Now they changed it to January the 23rd. And all the neat things that go. But I'm going to share this with you. You've heard of the phoenix rising out of the ashes. I'm spent. I've been incinerated. There's nothing left of me anymore. Nothing which to cling. Nothing which to let go. It's all gone. Every dream, every wish, every desire. The flames consume me, and I burn to ashes. All that remains is hope. I rise again tomorrow. I know there's a Chicago fire, and the whole Chicago fire ripped the entire city of Chicago. And one guy put a sign out in the rubble. It says, house gone, business gone, but we still have life, family safe. That's right. And business continues tomorrow. Yes. And that's what he put. We're open tomorrow for business because of hope. And from the Phoenix is back to Legacy Church, and this is a congregation of about 300 to 400. And I remember when we were an elder of the congregation Conby Road Church of Christ, we merged 50 of that church over to Grove Park Christian Church. Tim, Paul, and I became elders there. Later I became deacon of missions when we took on the Jamaica responsibility. And of those 50 people that merged over there, 2 years later I took an inventory of how many were still in the fellowship there. 49 of the 50 were still there 2 years later. One family unfortunately went through a divorce, and when you have families going through divorce, you can lose both of them, you can lose one or the other of them. And there's nothing you as an elder or a pastor can do about it. It happens. We're talking about two things this morning: failure and success. Failure and success. We'd like to leave failure, but guess what? We're going to come back often. I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying again. Right. Michael Jordan. Remember Michael Jordan? Yeah. He says, "I've missed 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take that final winning shot, the goal shot, penalty shot. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Babe Ruth. Nobody tells you about the 1,330 times he struck out. They do know about the 714 home runs he knocked over the fence. That's right. Calvin Coolidge said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world's full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." Robert Kiyosaki said, "Winners are not afraid of losing, but losers are. Failure is part of the process of success. People who avoid failure also avoid success." Japanese proverb, "Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Nelson Mandela, "Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I've fallen down and got back up again." Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Right. Who said that? None other than Winston Churchill. It was said that at 80 years old he became his finest statesman. He reached his pinnacle. He began at age 80. That's where he became most successful. That's where he became the statesman.
So did Moses.
Moses was 80 when he got started too, second time around.
That's right.
William Randolph said, "Winning is great, sure, but if you are really going to do something in life, the secret of learning is how to lose. Nobody goes undefeated all the time. If you can pick up after crushing defeat and go on to win again, you're going to be a champion someday. Edison, I've not failed, I just found 10,000 ways it won't work. And when he worked on the electric light bulb, you know how many experiments he went through before he was successful?
10,000.
18,000. When you take risks, according to Ellen DeGeneres, she says the risk you learn, that there will be times when you succeed and there will be times when you fail. And both are equally important. I like this as far as business failures. And I didn't realize, you try to contemplate, we've been here serving God faithfully, praying, sweating, and labor of love. And you say, well, why did we fail? And yet we failed in some areas. Churches selling, churches closing, churches merging on. Well, there are famous business failures. You look at Tommy Hilfiger. First store, went bankrupt. Milton Hershey. How many like Hershey bars?
Dark chocolate.
First confectionery failed. Heinz 57 Varieties. Company went bankrupt 6 years after it started. Walt Disney, his first film company, went bankrupt. I remember when Roy and Walt was saying whenever they did Cinderella that Prince Charming slithered in the last scenes. And Roy says, we don't have any more money. We're out of money. He said, I need to improve that because Walt was a perfectionist. And Roy says, we're broke. So Prince Charming slithers through the last scenes of Cinderella. Or Snow White. I think it was Snow White. One of those. Anyway. Henry Ford, first 2 car companies failed. L.L. Bean almost went bankrupt in his first year. I went out to my old Sears Roebuck store. It was the #1 retailer in America. I had to go visit there a few weekends ago. I told this story to others, but I worked there for 5 years back behind Sears Town. The interesting thing is the Spanish church met here is now meeting right behind the old Sears Town store. And they moved over to the new mall. And they were the, what do they call the key stores? They always have 2 big stores at either ends, anchor stores. And now the anchor is going store closing. And I used to work Division 9 hardware. How many of you ever bought Craftsman Tools and Hardware? I probably sold them to you for all you know. But those were the golden days of Sears Roebuck. I went down through the alleys, through the aisles of the Sears store here just 2 weeks ago. Or was it a week ago? And I had to go through. My wife says, I said, just drop me off and go look for what you're looking for. I'm going to go take a walk through memory lane. And in my walk through memory lane, it was bittersweet. I remember all the old bosses and all the old fellow colleagues and all the customers and all the thrills and all the aggravations and all the midnight sales. And I remember Christmas working at Sears, and we had midnight sales. And it says it's us people cleaning up after the party. Everybody's enjoying Christmas. We that working midnight sales, we're the cleanup crew that has to do the cleanup after the party. You enjoyed the party, but those that run the department stores, it's not fun. But then at 11:45 at night, we're tossing a football down the empty aisles, back and forth across whatever. This gave me some insight of why we as a church fail. 90% of startups fail. Here's what you need to know about the 10%. Notice this, 90% of the startups, new churches, new businesses fail. Usually the first 2 years. We hung on for 8 years. The founders of Wantful, which is now in fact inactive, confess that they did not accomplish highly accelerated growth required to secure later stage venture capital. They needed funding, but when the company didn't grow fast enough, they weren't eligible to secure more funding. That was the beginning of the end. Growth leads to more growth, which leads to ever more growth. A startup should not be satisfied with marginal single-digit growth. Growth rates after many months of operating. If the growth doesn't happen after a certain amount of time, then the growth will not happen. A company that is not growing is shrinking. The second major reason why startups fail is that they ran out of cash. Why did they run out of cash? Because they didn't grow fast enough. If your startup can grow fast, you can effectively bypass some of the other biggest startup killers. Losing to the competitors, losing customers, losing personnel, and losing passion. Rapid growth early on is a sure sign of future success. And that's reality. We tried to get church loans, and I remember we had $20,000 worth of promissory notes coming due, and no, it's 10,000, 20,000 worth of promissory notes coming due. And our congregation was this size. And how would you guys like me to land you what we had to do? Okay, folks, I appreciate your faithful tithing and your faithful giving. I need $1,000 a month increase from what you're doing right now. And look around. And you're giving your best right now. And I said, I need $1,000 more. I never made that announcement to the church because I knew it would kill them. You do not, Jamaica Express, you do not milk a cow until it bleeds. You don't double dip. And I remember having to go down to the bank. My wife and I went down and got another mortgage on, and we were able to pay off all the promissory notes. And they're 4.5% interest. And we paid off $19,000 worth of promissory notes. One was due in February, the other was due in November. We got through all that. But then we went to another church organization that says we will loan you up to $100,000 loan at no interest. Now, if we could have got a no interest $100,000 loan, guess what? This building would be practically paid for. As was in the last 8 years, we paid $80,000 in interest. Or maybe $70,000 interest and $20,000 on principal. I don't know how the thing works. But this is reality. But the thing is, we're a small fish. When you go to the big loaning organizations of the church, we don't want to talk to you for $100,000. We want to loan you $1 million. We want to loan you $2 million. We don't want to mess with a small fry. Since we were little, we did generate the interest. And our ability, can we pay it back? I didn't see any major problem paying it back, but if your startup lasts, you're lucky. We say in the Christian world, you're blessed. You've been able to do something that 90% of new businesses haven't. Even though there's a lot of luck involved in the success stories like Google and Facebook, there are more humble reasons why other startups succeed. They have a product that meets a need. They don't ignore anything. They grow fast, and they recover from the hard knock startup. And it was either UPS or FedEx. They had $20,000 on hand and had $40,000 worth of payroll. The guy went to Vegas and put it all on black on the roulette wheel.
And he lost.
And they won. And they won, and they had the money. They had the $40,000 they needed to continue for one more month. Otherwise, they'd been bankrupt. Cash flow. I don't recommend doing that. But the only way to, I do recommend, gamble once, win, and never do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it does, because the longer you do it, the worse it gets, the odds it gets. I like this success. People think success is, this is the real line to success.
There you go.
Amen.
This is success right here. This is reality. And if you want to say that the biography of the Northside Christian Church, it was one line of success, wasn't it? No. It was all the ups and downs and hurting people we ministered to during that time.
Amen.
I like Teddy Roosevelt that said it's far better to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to tank rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much, because they live in the great twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. We can say one thing, we can brag about one thing here at Northside, we've had our share of defeats. We can brag that we've been kicked in the teeth more times than one. We can brag more than one time, we've had a bloody nose more times than one. But of the many souls we've helped hurting,
Yes, amen.
and then, that's one thing. You can run the church either as a business or you can run it as a family.
Come on.
And anytime you have a church that's run as a family, when people have needs, you dig down and help them out. Whether you got the money or don't have the money.
Exactly.
I mean, you put a homeless family, you put them up in a motel. How many times can you do that? Well, you did it 1 week, 2 weeks, and then after that you say, we're taking them down to the shelter for a minute, we're running out of money. Where'd you get the money from before? Don't know, we had to squeeze it. Well, guess what our mission of the month is this week, folks, or this month? It's not going to be Jamaica, it's not going to be India, it's not going to be whatever. It's helping this derelict guy out of Africa, that's supposed to be going to Bible college, stay at the motel down at the corner. Number 2, success. We can look at failure, we can look at success. Let's look at the successes. The Bible says in Philippians 1:27 and 28, whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as the one for the faith of the gospel, without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. This is a sign to them that they will be destroyed, but that you will be saved, and that by God. Now this is the group we had. This is our part of our board of Jamaica Christian College, and this Kevin Short came out for an interview as far as in contemplation of leadership. Has that decision been made yet? No, and that's yet to be. And this is Kevin and Carla, who've been asked to help serve. He's coming up to teach at the Bible College in Jamaica in March, and he's supposed to head up our booth at the International Conference of Missions out of Indianapolis, Indiana in 2020. Normally we go for a week in Jamaica, come home for a week, and drive the 2,000 miles back and forth to do the convention. At least in 2020 we just go to Jamaica and run the week of class and come home and conk out and catch your breath. We don't have to run to Indianapolis and drive 2,000 miles and set up conference. Are we winding down? Yeah. We're only changing, instead of traveling 3,400 miles, we're going to travel 1,400 miles. And that's 2020. We're not going to tell you about the 2019 schedule. Has missions quit? No. This container is being filled. Here's Joe Ryan and my wife. And we got that, this is when it was about 1/3 full. And I've got the picture later on of it being totally full of all these chairs and desks going to Jamaica to help one of the schools. Now you talk about, is this success or failure? Well, this school was started with 17 children. And that was 20 years ago. How many years? 16 years ago. Wife went down and spent a month working with that school and training their leadership and training the teachers. Today, the reason why we're sitting down those chairs is because the school unfortunately succeeded. And they went from 17 to 100 to 230 to 340. That's why we're sending down these desks and chairs. And we're also starting another school, which will be about the 7th school we've helped there in Mitchelltown. And then about another 2 years, be another school that my wife will be working in Old Harbor to start up 8th school, maybe? Something along that line. Of course, she's retired, but what do you do in your retired years?
Work harder.
Okay, this school is in the community. They call them parishes. This school is the best school, and it goes from preschool all the way up through 4th grade right now. And they're going to go up through 6th grade, 5th and 6th, adding up the next couple of years with 340 children, 40 staff, 40 support staff, teachers, janitors, cooks, and then the reason why it's first in the community nationally, it is the 3rd best school in the whole nation of Jamaica. Now, we're failures. You look back and say, well, something went wrong or something went right. And this has just been part of the mission that's happened and started out here in Lakeland, Florida. This is sort of the students that have been working. We're going to have a graduation coming up in June, and we're going to have about 8 graduates, I believe, from this campus. And some of the successes we had, Cassandra earned her master's degree, and Glenn deserved a much-deserved Doctor of Letters for his work in gospel ministry and publication of the life of Christ. This is one from one of her successes from a young gal by the name of Margarita. She went down Wednesdays. She was here every Wednesday and every other Sunday. Russian girl that went through a divorce, single mom. Had a little 4 or 5-year-old, little 4-year-old now. She's 5 years old, little Isabella. And the church helped her by getting her car fixed up. I mean, this was a situation where she was had 3 lugs holding a tire on, and the brakes weren't sturdy and all that other stuff. And Tim Williams, one of our co-workers, got a hold of a mechanic, and he called his friends and raised up the money and did about $1,800 worth of repairs on her car. And it cost us as a church $150 to loan her for a rental car so she can get back and forth to school, at least for that time. So these are some of the ministries, just a little snapshot of the ministries that we as a congregation have helped people that are beyond our capacities, but not beyond God's capacities.
Amen.
This is the manor on Lake Morton. And I'm going to show you this picture because here's the manor on Lake Morton. You see this lot here? There's a 3-story building that's an assisted living unit that has about 65 residents. You see this area? That's a memory care unit. You see this building right next to it? This is an office. And the house next to it is a house. And apparently Louis Gerard buys up all the properties around his businesses as they come available, and we have to be at the right place, the right time, the right location to say, oh, I would like that property, even if he has to make a parking lot out of it. Who knows what he's going to do, because he's got 3 properties behind it that he bulldozed down the houses and put parking lots in there. So who knows what's going to happen. This is the manor, and we look at these souls, and this is just one of 27 worship services and Bible studies that happen every month. One of 27. And Dean has passed away since. We had one older lady, she's 101 years old. You know what happens when you get to be 101? Sometimes you don't live to be 102. And we've ministered to, I don't know how many people. This is at the Grand Villa over here by the park. Now, when you're trying to keep track of 6 various care homes and trying to coordinate your 14 volunteers and hoping everybody remembers where they're supposed to be, for that I feel like an orchestra leader saying, okay, Dan and Liz, you guys you're off. You're packing up today. Glenn, Sylvia, you know where you're supposed to be this afternoon at Grace Manor. Richard, Cassandra, and we've got Donna McDonald. We're over at Brookdale at 2:30. These are some of the new people, the barber shoppers. They went to about 3 of our facilities. We have this couple, the Gill family. They help us over at the manor on Lake Morton as a praise and worship. We've got Dan. He's our Sunday school teacher, and also he fills in a couple times a year when I'm gone to college, when I'm gone down to Jamaica. We've got Kurt Morlock. You see him waving his hand. Kurt's 90 years old, and he said, put me on the schedule. Put me on the schedule. So he's once a month over at Brookdale, starting in February, 2nd Sunday. Dan, Liz, don't forget you got it in January. 4th and 2nd. Of course, we got Dr. Pat. We've got our piano player here. We got our singers here of Melody and Barbara over Legacy. These folks are from Legacy. These folks are from a Methodist congregation. This gentleman's from, I think, Victory. Donna's from Victory. So we've had various folks from various backgrounds, religious backgrounds, rolling up their sleeve and saying, what can we do to serve the older people? This is one where we had our Russian singer come from Pennsylvania and from Russia. I think she's from Ukraine area, and a younger woman. And we went and passed out brochures to our entire neighborhood and invited our entire neighborhood to come to a concert here. Young woman, we even gave the Jesus video and all that other. And after inviting 800 people, you know how many people showed up in my neighborhood?
Uh-oh.
You wouldn't say that's discouraging, but I'm just telling you, you can fail, but not be a failure.
Exactly.
So we pulled her on over to the care home, and they plugged her in, and we were able to get a donation from 2 of the care homes to help in her mission support too. This is the newest Osprey. And you know who's missing right here? Anthony usually sits right here, Liz. Anthony and Ralph came to the concert we had this last time. We've had 3 or 4 of these folks. This sister, help me here, Dorothy. She's an old black preacher for, I think she's Pentecostal. She's got a style with her that's definitely her style. And they meet 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock every Sunday morning. But her stroke she's had and health issues and all the other. Her son died here about a month ago, 2 weeks ago. That's really taken them. She's about 76 years young, but whatever. But she was leading this group, and she has a Bible study on Tuesdays. Right now, when I've talked to a couple of our guys, it says apparently the only worship service they got going on right now is our once-a-month worship service. At 9 o'clock, we're bringing the Cornwell singers to bless, and hopefully we can build that group up. We have usually 6, 8 of us at that small group. This is our favorite group, or I'm going to say one of our favorite. This group actually is a self-encouraging group. They get out and hustle and get everybody out there. They're supposed to, Dr. Pat, except last time I had 3 people show up, didn't we? Sometimes we'll have 18, sometimes we'll have 3.
18.
We had 18? Yeah.
Had 18 down at Lake Morton.
When you have 18 in a group at the care home, you got a crowd. And the neat thing is, this lady here, Miss Betty, that was Sharon's neighbor that came out the movie night here on Friday night. She came with Sharon a couple nights for movie night. You never knew she'd be one of your permanent fixtures at your worship service over there. She has not missed a worship service in 2.5 years, except when she's sick with the flu. So she is a 99% attender at the Grand Villa Christian Fellowship. You don't know who you touch and who you reach out to and all the other. And Melody, she's another gal that we sang choir with, remember? And whenever you go to the big church, they only have the best musicians play. And those that are not so good, or the almost best or almost good, they usually bench on the almost good. And so, and that's a frustration, that sometimes great talent is putting on the bench. And that's one thing, fortunately, we've got a lot of bench quarterbacks in this congregation. We have been blessed with some of the greatest piano players and the greatest vocalists. You haven't even heard Dan sing too many times. You know that Dan has done gospel concerts too. And when you talk about singers, you got a piano player, and you got a barber shopper, and you got a saxophone and a guitar, and a choir member, and you got a pianist and a keyboardist and a soloist, and we have one gentleman back here used to sing in Tommy Dorsey's orchestra way back when. I always tease everybody that Morty Tompkins sings like Frank Sinatra's brother.
Amen.
Not so hot trip.
Not so hot.
And I got some folks come down. We had 30 people come down from the care home hear this guy croon. And the old ladies, 90 years old, they fell in love with him. And he says, I got a wife at home, down ladies, down. So I have to go with a ball bat to beat the old ladies away from Morty after he got done crooning. But those are stories to be told. Here's the beginnings of a billboard ministry. It started with one and ended up, this one was sitting on Interstate 4. A young lady, 20 years, was addicted to cocaine. And we've set free by Christ's grace since 2007. And where's a better place to put a billboard like this on Interstate 4 in Hooters restaurant parking lot? And we've set billboards in ABC liquor store parking lots. I mean, we put on TV ads there on Long Island Medium. I mean, that's like putting a track rack with somebody handing out tracts on the front door of hell. He is risen, one of the biggest Easter campaigns ever run. There were about 12 billboards that went out in this particular campaign. There's an interview on Fox and Friends, the WDU station there. And this whole thing just really ran its role. In 8 years, there are 95 billboards, directly responsible for. Most churches do one billboard every 20 years, and it's up for 6 months. 95 billboards have come up over this county, and 6 more are going up first or in the middle of the year when the funds come available. Our baptism of the billboard, when Tim came up and asked us, he's a former Catholic, he put up a signboard that says, what hinders you from being baptized? He said, would you elders, remember when he came last morning and said, would you guys baptize somebody out here? We're going to set up a praise band and all that other. We had the old horse tank and went down to the old farm store. Got the old metal tank out there. And we've seen that 60 times. That baptistry has been used by us and our teams. And we've loaned it out to other churches, and they've had other baptisms. The Spanish churches borrowed, they had 5 baptisms Easter. They borrowed for that. We had another group over in Winter Haven borrow baptism. So this little tin bucket has seen its share of people getting in right with Christ. Here's some of the people of, one of the greatest victories is this guy right here. This man was Special Forces, Vietnam. He was a martial arts instructor. he had this little guy come up to him and got in some kind of a discussion with him. Next thing, they took Tom Mikowski and threw him across the yard, or threw him across the bar twice. He said, "Where'd you learn to do that?" He says, "You come, I'm a sensei, I'll teach you." And so the sergeant started popping off to Tom, and Tom threw the sergeant halfway across the barracks. And the sergeant says, "Where'd you learn to do that?" He said, "I want you to teach the men." This man was a martial artist instructor. He was also with the Army paratroopers, and he gave his life to Christ, was baptized into Christ. He's always here at the church a half hour before anybody else was. And I said, "Preacher, give me a key." I didn't tell him, you got to be a member to get a key. You got to be baptized to get a key. You got to be a deacon to get a key. I gave him a key. He came down, he was setting up the coffee pot and everything else. He's old faithful Tom. And these are among others. And one picture is worth 1,000 words, and look at this young lady. Remember when we baptized her uncle? His name was Jesse Taylor. They baptized Jesse Taylor in Cedar Creek last Sunday. Her uncle was the biggest drunk. And whenever he's on his deathbed, the family prayed he'd die. And he got better, and the family was mad at God for the man getting better. They wanted him dead. He went 6 months sober, and Tim brought him down here. We set up the old horse tank. We baptized him out here on the patio. And then there's this niece came with him, and she was ready for baptism. About 2 years later, she was immersed. This is Tom, and this is some of the team. This is the deal with Tom. We have Tom being baptized, being buried with Christ. We have Tom being buried at the Bushnell Cemetery, because just shortly after his death, we had a renewal vows. I've had 7 renewal vows that in our care home ministry and among our seniors and our juniors. But we've had renewal vows. But this is Donna receiving a tent there, the flag at Tom's memorial. Monday, we ran a quarter-page ad in the Lakeland Ledger for the Options of Women for Marilyn Pulse, and she sent a beautiful thank you to the Christian churches of Polk County. She said Christian churches of Florida. She says, "Do we need to run a GoFundMe page to paying you for that ad?" And these ads run about $450 to do an ad. Runs about $1,800 a page, and some are $450 to $750 for an ad. And this was part of because Tim runs a cabinet business, we get special rates from the newspaper to do this kind of work. And here, Bay News 9. Tim just asked me, do we do the next contract with Bay News 9 for Christian ads? These Christian ads are going to continue. 500 for the next year, 50 a month. And they give us 25 other free ads and 6 other broadcast stations, including LMN and sometimes it's on the, I don't know, not the History Channel, it's on various and sundry channels. Some movie channels, sports channels, and others. This is the Spanish church that spun off. I shared with the others last week. We gave the Spanish church 25 of these wooden chairs for starting up in their new rental building. And you know how many they had for church last Sunday? 26. So they had 25 chairs. Every chair was full. And they're coming in 12 o'clock whenever they start knocking on the door to take the rest of these chairs. At least the wooden ones. Wednesday we ended up with Tom Shelton. And of all the times when you'd end up with your final concert, you'd have visitors. And that was the good part. And we had some of the visitors, and I don't know how many we had that night, Mother? 17. We had 17 that night, we had 17 this morning. Seems like 17 we started with and 17 we ended with. Both our final Wednesday concert and our final service Sunday. And this was our picture we had of the group that were there this last Sunday. And the reason why we took the picture is because we had twice as many than normally here. And anytime you have twice as many normally there, you got to get a picture. And so we did last week. You're leaving failure, moving to success. And I'm going to close with this one final thought. One biblical that says, be strong and of good courage. The same encouraging words that God gave Joshua and God gave Paul. But I close with this one thought. He says, what is the point of being alive if you don't at least try to do something remarkable? God bless you.